So let's talk about some of the rare commanders that we saw from the set that aren't in the precons. We'll talk about them really quickly. Babala Saga Night Witch, a green, a black, and 1. Tap it, sacrifice up to 3 permanents. If there were 3 or more card types among the sacrificed permanents, each opponent loses 3 life, you gain 3 life, and you draw 3 cards. This seems really fun to me. I'm not sure if people really liked this one when this was previewed, but 3 or more card types among the sacrificed permanents. I mean, you can sacrifice tokens, right? Because tokens are going to have types. I'm not wrong about that, right? It's worded strangely. I mean, it's worded specifically, so it's making me second guess myself. But we want to sacrifice what? A creature, an artifact, and an enchantment. That could be good. What kind of tokens can we create? Create token in green and black. I know we do a lot of artifact tokens easy. Zombies, creatures, plants, construct, artifact, creature. That's two right out of the gate. Yeah. Token itself isn't a type, but the tokens themselves have type. So we can create different types of tokens to be sacrificing. And it's got to have a card type, so I'm assuming that's creature, artifact, enchantment. Create enchantment token. Is that a thing? Pests seem decent in this. Treasure token, obviously anything that's going to create a treasure token. Yeah, run a lot of lands. Make one of the 3 things that you sacrifice a land. I mean, you are replacing, you're drawing 3 cards. So if even if you just have 1 or 2 tokens supplementing what you're doing totally, sacking a land in addition, you're going to replace that land. And you're in a deck, you're in a colors where it's going to pull all your lands onto the battlefield. Yeah, I'm looking for, okay, so this is not a good mana cost here, but put 2/3 enchantment creature tokens onto the battlefield. That's not bad. Create enchantment token. Here we go. Pharika. Yes, this card is good in here. Exile target creature card from a graveyard. Already good. Its owner creates a 1/1 black and green snake enchantment creature token with death touch. So we can use it aggressively, or we can use it for ourselves to have that one more thing to sacrifice. And if we're sacrificing creature cards, there's going to be creature cards in our graveyard for sure. Yeah, at the head of a deck, not sure. I think that there are a lot of like Jund sacrifice decks that this could be a really good card in, because you do get to draw 3 cards. That's just really insane. Yeah, Jason, like the Corvold deck needed more help, but it is another good piece in that 99. Let's look at Rafael, Fiendish Savior. Other demons, devils, imps, and tieflings you control get +1/+1 and lifelink. So just off the rip, commander is red and black. We're looking for type demon, and we want to sort EDA Trek. Obviously, tons of really strong demons. Look at all this. What else have we got? Devil. Turns out there's some really strong devils as well. Have y'all played Sin Prodder? What do y'all think of Sin Prodder? I've played it a couple of times. I end up cutting it. The beginning of your upkeep, reveal the top card of your library. Any opponent may have you put that card into your graveyard, and if that player does, Sin Prodder deals damage to that player equal to that card's mana value. Otherwise, put that card into your hand. It hasn't really operated how I've wanted it to operate. But there's some really cool devils. What are other creature types here? Tieflings and imps. What do we have here? Ha! Okay, we've got some playable imps. Barely. Oh, look, Maddening Imp. I covered this in the Secret Commander tech. Look at that art. That thing looks insane. That card is fun. I like a death-touching Stinkweed Imp. We can dredge it back up if we need another death-touching flyer. Yep, they all get +1/+1, and they have lifelink. All right, that's Imp. Let's see, what do we have? Tiefling. How many Tieflings are there in the game? Not many, but we can run Prosper in this deck. Also, Grim Hireling is really strong. Horde Robber's decent. Death Priest doesn't really go in here. Valor Singer does, but like, why? There's definitely better options. So we got some cool stuff for Rafael Tribal. Then it says at the beginning of each end step, if a creature card was put into your graveyard from anywhere, create a 1/1 red devil creature token with when this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. And it has lifelink. So deal a damage, gain a life. That's pretty cool. Let's look up, I'll do this. Let's look up, says devil in the create a devil token. A lot of these, that's not gonna be relevant. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about here. Create a 1/1 red devil creature token with when this creature dies, it deals a damage to any target. Like this, +1/+0 and gain haste until end of turn. This card goes in this deck for sure. This is a planeswalker that goes in this deck. I don't know how strong it'll be, but we'll play test it for sure. I mean, don't you just love any deck where you can unironically run Tibalt Rakish Instigator? Sire of Insanity definitely goes in this deck. If you want to be crazy. But this will be creating devils for you. I like Power Word Kill in there for the flavor. I remember Vexing Devil from back in the day. That's so funny. Oh, look, Obnixilis the Adversary. That could go in there. Yeah. Borka said it. Rafael Fiendish Savior's got some play. 5 mana, but it does get flying. For the 4/4 body. We also saw Gorion Wise Mentor. It's Bant for a 3/4 human wizard with vigilance. Whenever you cast an adventure spell, you may copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. White, green, and blue for our adventure spells. Here's what we got so far. 21 adventure spells that are going to fit into this. Somewhat Fae of Wishes obviously isn't going to play. Hypnotic Sprites just casting 2 counter spells. I love Giant Killer. I love that. Don't really love Secret Keeper. Queen of Ice is pretty cool. You get into long tap 2 things. 2 destroy spells copied, not really worth it. Shepherd of the Flock, very relevant in this deck. I like this a lot. So hopefully we get, I mean, we did see we are going to get some more adventure spells. Hopefully we get some ones that are more fun to copy. You know, these 4 across the top, solid. Solid to copy. Solid to cast. It's just one of these cards that, you know, it's going to depend on the strength of the cards that can go in this, right? This is like a tribal commander for a tribe that doesn't have a ton of support. Hopefully we get a lot of good adventure cards in these 3 colors so that Gorion has some cards to support it as a deck. But otherwise, it's a very narrow build. You're building adventure tribal. On the card, it says it doesn't give you specific draw a card. So that's good. In my opinion, they've been putting draw a card on too many commanders recently. But I think it's fun. I think it's cool that we could get... I always call them tribal, even though it's not a specific tribe. This is adventure tribal, right? I think you've probably heard me refer to this guy that way a couple times now. This is just a tribe that is getting a commander, and the tribe itself doesn't have a lot of support. But over time, it absolutely will gain more. And look, the next time Eldraine comes up, keep this commander in your mind. The next time we go back to Eldraine, you know adventure's going to be a mechanic that returns. People loved it. And people overall loved Eldraine. So you know we're going back. I think it could gain some potency over time. Currently, you're looking at 4... 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 8 that I really like. Maybe 8 of them that I really like. There are 21 options though. And so to build the deck, you just have to kind of like put them all in there and hope for the best. Hope for the best. Mazzy, True Sword Paladin. Nice little Naya commander here. Cool art. Halfling Knight. White, a green, a red, and one other for a 3/4 Halfling Knight. Whenever an enchanted creature attacks one of your opponents. Whenever an enchanted creature attacks one of your opponents, it gets +2/+0 and gains trample. Whenever an enchanted creature attacks one of your opponents. Whenever an aura you control is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, exile it. Until the end of your next turn, you may cast that card. So the first thing we do is we look up in our colors, red, green, white, type aura. We want to go cheapest. None of these are creature auras. Here we go. Now we're into it. All that glitters, rancor. Ethereal armor. Bear umbra. I want to go cheap though. Spirit mantle. Yas. That's what I'm talking about. Thing is my very first commander deck ever was Uriel. And Uriel is just a house. Used to be a house. Not as housey anymore. But still really good. Got hexproof before hexproof was a keyword. And it gets 2/2 for each aura attached to it. So you can go Voltron, you can make it just a really strong attacker on your side. But I do like that this is giving +2/+0. It's giving trample. That's much more relevant than the +2/+0 in my opinion. And it'll let you cast your auras, but you do have to cast them until the end of your next turn. You have to cast them by then. So you've got to really look at your 1 and 2, maybe your 3 mana auras as your best synergistic plays with this. Obviously, I'm not saying don't run 5 or 6 mana auras. Run your colossification, boo-boo. However, you want to be able to recast them from exile. You want to be able to also cast new things so that you can get ahead. Flickering Ward is one of the best possible cards for a deck like this. Because it gets to return. It can also recast for really cheap with Mazzy True Sword Paladin's ability. Very strong. Obviously, yeah, I'm seeing some people in chat talk about you have to recast them. Yep, that is going to be the downside of this commander. But it does at least give you the ability to stay in the game. These kinds of strategies have not had a lot of game longevity in the past. You got to run things like return all enchantments from your graveyard to the battlefield. That kind of card. But you can't do that until super late. You don't want to do that just for your one, Spirit Mantle. Just for your one Flickering Ward that you weren't able to return because you forgot to leave a white mana open. Hint, hint, please just leave a white mana open if you've got Flickering Ward on the battlefield. But you want to wait until you got a bunch of cards in there. Ancestral Mask, Hyena Umbra. Mantle of the Ancients is the kind of like end game effect I'm talking about. ETBs return any number of aura and equipments from the graveyard attached to an enchanted creature. I think that Mazzy is going to beat one of y'all that are underestimating it one day, and you'll see. But also, I'm not sitting here saying it's the strongest commander that we've seen today. I just think it's got some play. We saw Gale, Waterdeep Prodigy, with the coolest art so far, in my opinion. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell from your hand, you may cast up to one target card of the other type from your graveyard. A spell cast from your graveyard this way would be put into your graveyard. Exile it. And it's got choose a background. You go and choose a background. You can add different colors. We only saw a few of the backgrounds, but, you know, there are things like it gets menace when it attacks. Commander creatures get the ability to... Here we go. When this creature enters the battlefield at the beginning of your upkeep, each player may put 2+1/+1 counters on a creature they control for each opponent who does. You gain protection from that player until your next turn. That's okay. I don't like things that give choices like that. You're going to definitely get to grow your stuff with +1/+1 counters. We haven't seen all the backgrounds yet, so it's sort of hard to talk about those. But I do think there'll be like one or two killer ones. And for a creature that so easily allows you, and cheaply, might I add, 3 mana for this commander, that's cheap. You put a lot of stuff in here, 1, 2, 3 mana instant and sorcery spells, you're popping off. Popping off. So we'll see once backgrounds come out what we can combine Gale with to make the Waterdeep Prodigy an absolute house, but I really like the potential of this commander. I think that this could see some play. Asterion's a 6 mana 4/4 vampire elf rogue word soup here. Death touch, lifelink, beginning of your end step, choose to have a target opponent lose life equal to the amount of life they lost this turn, or you gain life equal to the amount of life you gained this turn. So it's kind of interesting because if Asterion gets through, it is technically going to be attacking for 8 because then you can activate feed, target opponent loses life equal to the amount of life lost this turn, but it's still just a 4/4 for 6. Comes in kind of late, but it is redundancy on enchantments that do this. I mean, have you ever heard of Wound Reflection? Beginning of each end step, each opponent loses life equal to the life they lost this turn. So this could be the good commander of a deck where you are just leaning into that effect fully. You've got cards like Wound Reflection. You've got cards like Sanguine Bond, Exquisite Blood. And this does happen at the beginning of your end step. So the card is going to count things even while it's not on the battlefield. And let me tell you what I mean by that. You can attack through, say you get a bunch of vampire tokens on the battlefield, punch through, okay, take 10. That's their option. They just have to take 10. Boom, you drop Asterion on the battlefield, move to your end step, target opponent lose life equal to the amount of life they lost this turn. That's another hit for 10. So it could potentially line up some really strong plays. Are there any artifacts? What kind of artifact do we need to double this ability at the beginning of your end step? Have we got any abilities? Have we got any artifacts that are going to allow us to do that twice? Yeah, Veto's huge. That's exactly the kind of card I'm talking about. Wound Reflection, Sanguine Bond, Veto. Whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. Absolutely. Lithiform Engine. Strionic Resonator. Talking about some artifacts that live in this deck. that would be very fun to run alongside this. And that's also copying. Look at that. Triggered ability uses the words when, whenever, or at. How about whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life? Oh, yeah, there you go. You gain life equal to the life lost total by all players this turn. This is a very interesting build. It's a deck that starts pulling cards to it, you know? It's like I said, this is very niche commander that sort of builds itself, but it could be fun. There's a ton of cards like this. Marauding, yeah, I see people naming them. Boom. Whenever you gain life, each opponent loses a life. Can we just go gain life, loses life in white and black commander identity? Oh, yeah. Oh, we're going to see a lot of cards like that. Yeah. Obviously, Sanguine Bond, Exquisite Blood. That's the little 2-card combo. You can get both these on the battlefield and cause an opponent to lose a life, or have you gain a life. You win the game. Some of my favorite decks, Comball, Console of Allocation, my Liesa deck. This is the kind of effects that my Liesa deck loves to run. So who knows? Maybe I'll try a Asterion at the head of that deck and see how it goes. Got two more I want to talk about. Dynahair. Dynahair, Invoker Adept. This is an interesting one. You can activate abilities of other creatures you control as though those creatures had haste. So can somebody start looking up awesome cards that if only they had haste as far as their activated abilities go? What kind of creatures have an ability where you're like, this ability is so bomb, but it has to wait until it can tap? That's the kind of creatures we want to run in this deck, and they have to be Jeskai. Also, we can tap Dynahair when you next activate an ability this turn by spending 4 or more mana to activate it. Copy that ability. So let's do some advanced searching here. We need activated ability. Hidetsugu? Yeah, RJ. You've been playing some League with me. I played Hidetsugu last time. Can we just search out colon? So if we go creature, type, commander in white, blue, red. We just look at colon, mana. Tap this permanent. Yeah. There we go. Sorted by rank. Is this a Kiki Jiki deck? Is this a Kiki Jiki deck? And we're looking for specifically abilities that activate by spending 4 or more mana to activate it. So we're looking for creatures that have like X tap or 4 tap. We don't want to duplicate returning Arcanus the Omnipotent. Not worth it. Time Stream Navigator seems relevant. Hey, here we go. Oscar the Reconstructor's ability. Exile an artifact card with mana value X from your graveyard. That seems very specific. That seems like what we're looking for, but not kind of where we want to land. Just because you have to build artifact strategy so hard, and this doesn't scream artifact strategy to me. It screams creatures. Time Stream Navigator. Pay 4, put it on the bottom. Take an extra turn. That seems relevant. That seems relevant. for sure. Oh, here we go. Now return target artifact creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Maybe there is an artifact strategy here. Nin? Hey, this is relevant. Nin can go in this deck? Oh yeah, I like this. Deals X damage to target creature. Creature's controller draws X cards. I like Nin the Paid Artist in this deck. Three, three, nothing, three. Plarg Dean of Chaos. Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a non-legendary non-land card with mana value 3 or less. Cast that card without paying its mana cost. That's actually not irrelevant in this deck, especially if it's copied, right? Because you're gonna have a lot of creatures that are 3 or less. Not to not to mention your mana rocks, any of your like enchantment removal kind of cards. That could be good. A deck where Plarg Dean of Chaos is relevant. And then Augusta gets nasty on the back with all of your creatures. That's possible. That is possible. Any other... Okay, so let's look at Oracle that, and then I also want to look just for the X. That's got to be a thing, right? Here we go. Elite Arcanist. Didn't somebody say this? Elite Arcanist, when it enters the battlefield, exile an instant card from your hand. X, copy the exiled card. You may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. X is the converted mana cost of the exiled card. So we specifically, this is dumb. We specifically want to exile a 4 mana instant with Elite Arcanist, who is a 1/1, and then pay the 4 to copy it, and we get to copy it again with Dynahair. Don't say we didn't jump through hoops, okay? That's okay. Now here we go. League Guild Mage. This is good right here. I like this. 4 tap, draw a card. Repeatable. Not that we're going to have a problem doing that in these colors, but it's not irrelevant. And then for 3 mana spells, copy target instant or sorcery you control converted mana cost X or less. So, or no, with converted mana cost X, and you can choose new copy. So you can copy a spell that you're casting, copy it again, copy it again. That could be pretty crazy. Not a ton of payoffs here. Not a ton of payoffs for spending 4 or more mana to activate it. Is this an ability? Doesn't have to be, y'all, doesn't have to be creatures, Joel. Come on. Whoops. Suddenly we have a lot of artifacts. Duh. That seems good to copy. Oh, interesting. Blast Zone. Could you put... You could copy how many... I mean, you got to spend... So if I spend 2, I'm spending 4 total. For an XX ability with Blast Zone, does Dynahair copy that? Activate by spending 4 or more mana to activate it, right? Yeah, you're spending 4 total. Spending 2 twice. Spending 2 twice to put a ton of charge counters on Blast Zone. Not irrelevant. Hey, what's up, John? Same thing here, Prototype Portal. Maybe there is an artifact sub-strategy here. Create a token that's a copy of the exiled card. So this is one where you'd want the CMC of the artifact that you imprint on Prototype Portal to be 4 or greater so that you can cast it. You create a token. You also you copy the ability with Dynahair. This is an interesting card. It's going to take some digging to really find the cards that are awesome. Yeah, I saw the twice treasures up here. That's not bad, right? With Treasure Vault. Pay 2 twice I mean, yeah, you really want to dump a ton of mana into this. Pay 3 twice. Then at least you're getting 6. Soul Foundry's like Prototype Portal, except it's for creatures. Go digging with Podium. Rod of Absorption's pretty good overall. Now, this is really interesting in this deck because it's kind of a deck that wants creatures, right? Creatures with activated abilities. Search your library for a creature card with mana value X or less. So you can pay 4 to do this, get any creature card 1 through 4. You're copying that ability. Sentinel Flute's got some play in this. And note that this does not have a lot of prints here. 10th edition was the last one. Maybe look at foils of this. Maybe look at foils of Sentinel Flute as Dynahair becomes more popular and people start exploring this commander. So there's some options for Dynahair. We got one more I want to talk about. Bahal, Lord of Murder. How did y'all pronounce this? Y'all corrected the person who was telling us about this, right? What is this one called? Bahal? 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 Go down to MTG and get myself a Bahal, Lord of Murder. As long as your life total is less than or equal to half your starting life total. So as long as you're at 20 or less, Bahal is an indestructible 4/4. That's kind of a who cares from me. It's a nice, but it's a who cares. I don't know about this. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature and goad it. Y'all, this deck runs Squee. Play it from graveyard or exile. This deck runs Blood-Soaked. All the cards that we talked about we wanted to recast from the graveyard. Gutter Bones. Reassembling Skeleton. And then you combine that with a card like any literal altar. Ashnods, Dementia, Phyrexian. Carnage if you're budget. Get any of these 3. Shove them into ball. Get your Woe Striders. Grab your Woe Striders. Is it non-token? Yes, it is. So we do want, like I showed you, the creature cards. We want those dying. It is pronounced Bale, like Christian. Got it. Bahal, Lord of Murder. This is the kind of stuff you want. You want a reoccurring. You want to be sacrificing. You want to reoccur them. You want to drop counters on your opponent's creatures, and you want to goad them. Interesting. Will it see a lot of play? I don't know. Sukuruya. That was bad, but I tried. Get a couple points for trying. I do think that this card becomes a 99 creature in Jund sacrifice decks. This could be a cool 99 creature in a Jund sacrifice deck, because then you're going to get that little bit of residual value. But I don't know that I would build around this personally. But I mean, it's got support. It's got a lot of support. All of these that we talked about. Any of these that can come back, sack it, goad their creature, you're in the money. God, Goat has gotten a lot of love, haven't they? Goat has just been getting so much love over the last couple years. I guess real quick, we also talk about Elminster. This was also a commander that is not in the precons that we could see. Whenever you scry, the next instant or sorcery spell you cast this turn costs X less to cast, where X is the number of cards looked at while scrying this way. Then, +2, draw a card, scry 2. Boom. So +2, and on Elminster, you're drawing a card, and then the next instant or sorcery spell you cast just off of that is 2 less to cast. 2 generic mana less to cast. And look, that passive ability does not say this only happens once per turn. So we scry, we cast. We scry, we cast. We scry, we cast. Look, this sucks, y'all, but I mean, and it's going to be mean. People are going to hate it. But you know what phrase I'm going to search for? In a commander that's white and blue. Extra, not type line, not type line. Extra turn. Here you go. Here's your cards. Type instant. Let's look at those first. Oh, it's just Nexus, right? Yeah. So we got Nexus, type, sorcery. Boom. Here you go. Here's your deck. Found it. Here's your deck. Elminster extra turns. Draw a card, scry 2. Suddenly, Karn's Temporal Sundering is 4 mana. Take an extra turn. What? Time Warp. 3 mana. What? Time Warp doesn't say exile. Flash this back. That's what speaks to me when I see Elminster. But then we've also got this -3. Exile the top card of your library. Create a number of 1/1 blue fairy dragon creature tokens with flying, equal to that card's mana value. Huge. This is an excellent suggestion, Fail Out Gaming. This is huge. Love this. If you got enough mana, you're buying it back every time. I want to look at Commander is white-blue. And I want to look at CMC greater than or equal to 7. What can we play here? Is it instant or sorcery? No, it's just exile the top card of your library, create a number of 1/1 blue. So we're scrying our... We're scrying our giant spells to the top of our library simply to exile them. So we can make 1/1 fairy dragons. Whee! We don't need Vanquish the Horde right now. Oh my god, Vanquish the Horde loves this deck. Because it reduces any spells in here that are like this. This is what you need to kind of look for in this deck. Because you want high CMC spells that can also reduce themselves so that when you cast them, you're not actually casting them, like Treasure Cruise. You know, however the reduction happens, you want high CMC spells that reduce themselves naturally, but can be good targets for Elminster to exile off the top of the library. We scry with a card like Mystic Speculation, and then we exile Vanquish the Horde off because we don't want to wipe the board right now. Any of our Eldrazi's. Ooh, split cards. Don't we add CMC for split cards? That's exactly the kind of card you want to look for in this. Yeah, Connor, see, that's what I'm saying. Connor, you nailed it here. Extra turns plus Eldrazi plus Delve. That doesn't sound like a weak deck, does it? We very quickly start going into, oh, we're running powerhouse cards in this. Even better if they are type instant or sorcery. Let's look at what we got for instance. Commit to Memory. Huge. Into the Story. This you want to run in this deck because it counts itself as 7 mana to go create 7 1/1s if you need that, or you can cast it for 4 if one of your opponents has Threshold. Elminster seems powerful. Elminster seems powerful. Seems like it could be good.